You get one chance to sell it, one chance, and it's your largest asset. And you're going up against buyers. Like I ran a panel for private equity groups a couple months ago, and I asked them, I said, how many deals do you look at to how many you actually buy? And on average, it's about 4,000 to 5,000 companies in 1 year they look at. They put offers in at about 60 to 80, and they buy 5 to 6.
A huge win for the business owner to have someone on their team that understands what's going on here, that understands how to position the business the right way, and understands how to really get the value out of it that the business owner needs and should have after all the blood, sweat, and tears they put into it.
The scariest question for a business owner that just sold their company is, Adam, what do you do now?
Well, hey there, entrepreneur. Welcome back to the Scale to Sell podcast, the business owner's podcast to help you grow and exit your business on your terms. As we like to say, we like to build transferable value, create more freedom, and exit on your terms. This is episode number 63, The Power of Multiple Offers and Selling Without Regrets with expert Scott Bushkie. Scott, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Adam, great to be on the podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely. So Scott is the managing partner and founder of Cornerstone Business Services. With over 25 years of mergers and acquisitions experience, they are successfully executing hundreds of transactions, specializing in the lower and middle market, privately held and family-owned businesses. Scott, we're so thankful to have you here. Before we dive into this conversation about the power of multiple offers and the warnings about unsolicited offers that business owners should take, can you give us a little bit about your background and what got you into this industry of really helping business owners get the clarity they need and helping them exit on their terms?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So started the industry 28 years ago. Cornerstone's been around, like you said, for 25 years this year, but really fell into by accident at the ripe old age of 24. Most people get into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and got into it, worked for another firm for 2.5 years. Always loved I was the kid with the lemonade stand. I was the one always trying to find ways to make money and helping people. And then they paid you. It was such a cool thing as a young entrepreneur. And I did things through high school and through college that were all entrepreneurial. I ran my own business through college with college pro painters. And when I did this, I worked for another firm, and it was a typical business brokerage firm. And they would take on kind of anything and everything as much as they possibly could. And the more stuff they had, the more stuff they thought they could possibly sell. And it was very reactive. And when I saw that within the firm and within within the nation, that the closing ratios were 20 to 30%, I said, there's got to be a better way. There absolutely has to be a better way. Like if my kid came home with a test score of 25%, I'd be like, what in the hell are you doing? Like that doesn't work. And yet that's the national average. So that's where we started Cornerstone. Is we really focus on the low middle market. So we're kind of above the main street where the business brokers go. Okay, maybe the business brokers maybe sub 5 million in revenue, and then we come in below where the big investments go, where they say, okay, yeah, we'll work with you, but our minimum fee is $2 million in success fees or something like that. So what we've always done is brought the investment banking level quality of limited clientele, a team of people versus just one person trying to sell your company, specialists, and a set process that's proactive versus reactive. And it's helped us achieve a 85% closing ratio versus, over the last 5 years.
Yeah, much better than the average. So that's a trend in the right direction. That's good.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first came across those stats, I had the same reaction, was like, this is not okay. And what can we do differently to change things? Because it's not good for business owners. If you're counting on the viability of that business and the sale and the transfer of that to go well for your life and your personal finances and just enjoying the legacy of what you've built, this is not the way that these things need to go, for sure.
Yeah. And just a quick point on that. We just did, for your listeners, we just did last year a national study all around business owners. It was 750 business owners. We had a third party group do it, 700 business owners with 5 million to 100 million in revenue, kind of split evenly from 45 to 75. It was all around the mindset of selling and it's amazing, what the mindset is of a business owner. And when you read this study, and we could get a link into here and you can drop it in. you could see all the mistakes that these business owners make of why the closing ratios are so low, which, that could be a whole nother talk we have at a different point in time.
Yeah, we'll definitely include that link in the show notes below for the listeners to take a look at. I've seen them, and it is incredible, and it is a powerful thing to learn from and to be able to respond accordingly to, which is good. So from your experience, vast experience in this area, what do you see as the biggest mistake that business owners make when it comes to these offers, particularly the unsolicited offers that come along? Maybe they're, at a point in their business where maybe they're struggling or they're just trying to figure out what to do, and they have the shiny offer that comes in. What do you see are the mistakes that business owners make? And we'll kind of get into how do we go about this the right way?
Yeah, number one is they take them seriously, and a lot of times they'll accept them. And it's interesting in our national study, over 60% of business owners have never, ever had any kind of what we call an RMA, of a real market analysis, to really understand what is their real value in today's marketplace. But yet, or any kind of professional evaluation, but yet 55% said, if I got an unsolicited offer from Adam and I assumed it was reasonable. Now, again, I've never had evaluation ever, let alone in the last year, to know what it really is. I would accept it without talking to anybody. And it's one of those things where they'll say, well, what do you need? Well, I need $30 million. Well, what did you just set? You just set the ceiling that they know they're not going to pay any more than 30. And if you look at it, a buyer's job is what? It's two things. It's to buy any company for as little as possible and to put as much risk on you, the seller. So if it doesn't go well, you're taking even a bigger hit in an earnout or whatever else it might be over time. And that's their job. And, give an analogy is, think about if you were a really good tennis player, Adam, you from when you, right, as a little kid, grade school, high school, college, pros, Olympics, you never have lost. You've always won, but you work your butt off. You work harder than anybody else, and you've got that confidence that I'm a great athlete. I'm one of the best athletes out there. But now I take you to my country club and you start talking to the club pro, and you've never picked up a club in your life. You haven't even gone mini golfing in your lifetime. And all of a sudden you start like, how hard can it be to play golf? I'm hitting serves at 100 miles an hour. The ball sits there. You got a big club to whack it. It can't be that hard. I'm such a good athlete.
Yeah.
And the club pro's like, well, you want to play around? Round 18 on my course? And you're like, oh, sure. Why not? Because again, all the confidence I have of all the things that I touch to do well. But this club pro might have never played tennis in their life, or are terrible at tennis, but what they know is golf. And what they really know is that course that they've been at for 20 years. They've played it hundreds if not thousands of times. They know how the greens lie and read all the water hazards and everything else. And this business owner, or you, the really good tennis player, think you're going to beat the club pro. Well, who's going to win that round every single time? The club pro. And that's what it's like for business owners. And that's what we saw in our study, is that all the things, because 76% of them founded the business. They birthed this thing out of nothing. They created this thing. And so they're so good at resiliency and running through walls. And I can do this. And this happened, I'll pivot this way. I'll pivot that way. I'll trial and error something. And you lose a customer, you pick up a new customer. Your employee leaves, you get a new customer or a new employee. But you can't trial and error pivot your way through a sale.
Yeah.
You get one chance to sell it. One chance, and it's your largest asset, and you're going up against buyers. Like I ran a panel for private equity groups a couple of months ago, and I asked them, I said, how many deals do you look at to how many you actually buy? And on average, it's about 4,000 to 5,000 companies in 1 year they look at. They put offers in at about 60 to 80, and they buy 5 to 6. So you think that you do this once in your life, you don't know what it's worth, you're emotionally tied to this thing because it's like your baby, you bird this thing up, and you think you're going to beat these experts that have teams of people that are just there to do one thing, beat you up and get it for once. So what happens is, and kind of going into why they're so dangerous, is that it's flattering. Again, everybody thinks of it like, most of my clients talk about giving up a kid for adoption almost. So you think about this, everybody's kid's the best looking kid, the best athlete, the smartest kid in school. And all of a sudden somebody goes, boy, Adam, your kid is so smart. Well, thank you. She's such a good athlete. Boy, you must have really trained them hard. And it's flattering. It's exciting that someone's validating what you built, after usually decades. Our clients are usually boomers or Gen Xers that have been doing it for 10 to 50 years.
Hmm.
And it's exciting. It's like, well, and you might catch it to your point earlier, like maybe you catch them on a day where, geez, it wasn't a fun day, or they're getting a little bit burnt out or a little tired. Again, successful company, but all of a sudden you catch them on the right day. And I can give you, if we get there, a story or two of just how different it is from what an unsolicited offer is to what the true market is. Because the true market, on average, if we looked at the whole Cornerstone International Alliance, uh, which is a big group, we did 2.5 billion in about 300 some deals last year. When we did a study of, if you ran an unsolicited offer, or a process against unsolicited offer, how many times did you beat it? And if you did beat it, what was the percentage you beat it by? And the average that they beat the unsolicited offer by, of what the deal closed at, was 36%. And we looked at the last three deals that we did, because I spoke a couple months ago and somebody asked me, just look at the last three deals, 73%. So it's not like, well, it's 5%, and I know I'm going to have fees with Cornerstone, so it's really a wash. It's over a third to almost three quarters value difference.
Yeah, that's incredible. What are, just from your, we were talking about some of the reasons why someone might just accept it. From your experience, what are those reasons and things that business owners should watch out for if they get this offer and they're starting to think, well, maybe I should consider this? What are some of those things that you're like, this is why we don't want to get into this, or why this is not going to benefit you in the long run?
Yeah, someone will throw out a really high number, and then know they're going to beat you up over time and drag things out and everything else. I mean, there's nothing good that could come out of an unsolicited offer. Think of the story that you're looking at buying a house, and your realtor calls you. You've been looking for 2 months, and your realtor calls you. Go, hey, I got the perfect house. It's in the school district. It's got the number of bedrooms, the square footage, the bathrooms, everything that you've been looking for. And you go, hey, it's Wednesday. I'm busy at work. Can I go look at it on Saturday or Sunday? And you're like, well, I don't know. Let me check. And your realtor calls you back and go, yeah, no one's looked at this house for 110 days. No offers have been put on. Yeah, you can go look at it on Saturday or Sunday, and the asking price is $1 million. What value what value are you going to put on that home in your mind? What would you put on there?
Not $1 million.
Right. Somebody might come in 750, 800,000, 850, depending on how shrewd they are. Well, now, same story, scenario number two, same call. Hey, got the perfect house for you. It's a school district you want. I know school starts the next month. You want to get your kids into school, bedrooms, everything else. And okay, great. Can I go on Saturday? No, Saturday. There's 5 showings already on Thursday. You're the 6th, and all the offers are due on Friday. You go look at it. It's everything that you wanted. As you're walking out, the 7th group is walking in, and you got to put an offer by noon on Friday the next day. What value are you going to put on that house?
As competitive as I can get. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last scenario is that 7th, as you're walking out, the 7th family's walking in. It's that family that you absolutely cannot stand. Their kid bullied your kid, or they know it all. And you're like, there's no way in heck I'm ever letting that family buy this house from underneath me. And that's the defensive position of, I can't let my competitor get this. So it's the same house, but at least two, if not three, very different values. And that's what happens with businesses is, if I know something, if I'm the only buyer, and there's a reason why, because if the buyers didn't think that they could get a better deal and a better structure, they would just wait for them to come on the market through investment banks like Cornerstone. Because why would you spend all this extra time, all this extra money and effort flying out, meeting these people, marketing to them, calling them, if you're going to get the same exact value than if you just waited to come in the market? But like last year in 2000, we averaged 8 offers per client. So who do you think has because the buyer has all the advantage. They have all the smarts. They've done this hundreds, if not thousands of times. The seller's never done it. And they think they're going to win. And then now you bring an investment in. Okay, now at least you have knowledge on both sides. But the only way you ever get the seller to have the advantage is to what we talk about, is these power of multiple offers. And again, people do it because they're burnt out. They're tired. They're sick. They don't know what they're going to do next. They hit them on the right day. They don't want anybody to, about 54% said, I don't want to tell anybody I'm thinking about selling my business, because I don't want to, I don't want my employees to find out, which again, you don't want to tell your employees, but you got to talk to somebody like you and Steve at your shop to help understand where things are at. And they just don't know what they don't know. And they go, well, I guess this is all I guess I'm going to sell. And I pray to God I can live off of whatever I get. And it's just a very reactive process that usually does not turn out well for the business owner.
The idea of the power of multiple offers to me is a great example to share with the business owners of what you were just talking about. The contrast between the unsolicited offer and what you've gotten with your clients in the cases that you were citing there, it's a big that's a huge contrast to me, a huge win for the business owner to have someone on their team that understands what's going on here, that understands how to position the business the right way, and understands how to really get the value out of it that the business owner needs and should have after all the blood, sweat, and tears they put into it.
Yeah, let me give you just one example. This is one, just a recent one, a smaller deal, but a woman called, well, actually, their financial advisor saw me speak, and they called us. They were negotiating with one private equity group back and forth. Started on 5-6 million, had got all the way up to 10 million, but it went from 5 million cash at close. And then as they kept negotiating, the earnout got more and more unrealistic, just so they could say, yep, 10 million, you could get 10 million if the company did some amazing thing. That, so I was like, well, it's probably not really going to happen. So it's really not a $10 million offer, but that was the offer. And they said, look, you push us from 6 million all the way to 10. We can't go a penny more. If we're not the right fit, we're out. Because again, it was one-on-one. They had all the leverage. They could drag the thing out. They had all the cards stacked, the deck stacked in their favor. So we got a call. We did our RMA, our real market analysis. And she's like, well, I don't want to lose that buyer, because what if that is the best offer out there in the marketplace? Well, what I can tell you in 6 years is that when we run a process, the buyer many times will threaten to leave, but they don't leave because they like, hey, if nothing happens and now I'm still the lowball offer, I'm still going to get that deal. So they don't leave in our experience. But when she said, hey, I said, send an email to the buyer to say, hey, look, I like you guys. I appreciate all the time and effort you put in this. I get one chance to do this. I really want to do it right. I'm going to work with Cornerstone. They're going to run a process. Once she hit send on that email, within 5 minutes, her phone rings. It's the private equity group. The first thing they say is, what's it going to take for you not to sign with Cornerstone? Or how much more money do you want, after they just said we can't pay a dime more? There's no more we can go any higher.
Yeah.
And now she's like, thank God I'm bringing in Cornerstone, because that just totally smoked out their game. And we ended up getting 10 or 11 offers and closed the deal at 14 million, 40% above, and almost double. I think I got 9 or 10 cash at close. So almost double the cash at close and 40% more in overall value, only because, you tell the right story, you bring the right buyers, and you keep everything confidential. And now we're controlling the timing. We control the flow of information. We control when we ask for offers. We control the questions that they can ask. And now that's the only way that any seller, anybody that you're talking to, the only way they're ever going to have peace of mind. There's two kinds of sellers out there. There's the one that go, Adam, you give me 10 million or 100 million, whatever the number is. I don't care if I could have got triple. I just need 10 million bucks and I don't care. Or the other one is, I've had sacrifices. I've worked this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I want to maximize the value, or I want to go out on my terms. And more people are in the second camp that I found in the first camp, and they don't want to leave a bunch of money on the table. And the only way you're going to have that peace of mind is if we can tell the right story to the right group of buyers, give them, run a process, create urgency, create that scarcity, just like that story I talked about with the home sale, having all offers due on Friday at noon. You got to put one in or not, and you're bidding against other people, and they all want the home too. And that's how you're going to get that peace of mind. That's where, and a lot of our clients don't even take the highest offer. They might take the second or third highest offer, because maybe one offer protects the employees better, or a culture is more aligned, or, hey, I want to get out here in 3 to 6 months, or I want to roll equity and save for 3 to 5 years. There's no right or wrong. It's what's important to that seller, that family. And that's what these multiple offers can do. And that's why we're so excited to kind of put out our process, our proprietary process that really generates these multiple offers, because it just gives that seller, that family, the peace of mind to be able to choose what's the best fit for them.
Yeah. When looking at the businesses that you are looking to take on and help in this process to get multiple offers, what are the things that business needs to have in place that are going to attract those multiple offers and get the type of response and give them the type of options to consider?
Yeah, first of all, size does matter. I would say, like our minimum is $1 million in EBITDA. Yeah, ideally be $2 million in EBITDA, or kind of bottom line. So if you have a company doing $500,000 in revenue, it's just a different game. It's probably a little bit tougher to do. But if you got something doing at least a million, ideally 2 million or above in EBITDA. So most of our clients are 1 to 25 in EBITDA. That's kind of step number one. Because then you're getting into the private equity firms or family offices. You're getting into companies that want to grow through acquisitions, private or public, international. Then you're looking at the next big thing is the owner of the business. Is Adam the business that if Adam goes away, it's a house of cards and everything falls apart? Now, if you would have stayed for 5 years, great. But I don't know not too many owners want to stay and work for someone else. They'd rather sell and go enjoy life and everything else. So, are you the business?
For sure.
Is your top customer, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% of your business? So, again, it looks at risk. If you think of where do I have any single points of failure? Oh my gosh, if this supplier wouldn't sell this to me, there's nowhere else I can get that. Well, that's a problem, versus having duplicacy, redundancy in not only suppliers, but different countries, especially if you're in China right now, having other countries you can get your product or service from. But I would say, working yourself out of the business to some level. Your top customer, if it's 25% or less your business, that's probably okay in most cases. Process and system, it's not all in your head. You got to document it. You got a team there, some kind of a management team. And then really trends are a big piece of it too, because what I've seen is that's why I call the book Finish Strong. You want to kind of really add this thing where you're taking that last breath after decades and you're finishing strong, and you're finishing on an upswing. And what happens too many times is you go, oh man, the company's still great, but I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I've been doing this for so long, I'm bored. And all of a sudden it starts going like this. And what do you think, what 12 months period in your 30-year career of being a business owner do you think the buyer cares about most?
The trailing ones, the most recent of them. Yeah.
The last 12 months. So here we sit, we sit in April of 26. They don't even care what you did in all of 25 anymore. It's what are the last 9 months of 25 and the first 3 months of 26. It's the last 12 months and the next 12 months. Because what I'm buying as a buyer is the future 12 months or the future cash flow of that company. So if you're finishing strong and you've got a good team around you and you're really executing, you're going to get a higher multiple. If all of a sudden you go off a cliff, in fact, we had a client once, we did our RMA and it came in at whatever number. And we ran through all the numbers and they could live their ideal lifestyle, which we'll get into in a second. And but he just couldn't let go. He just couldn't let go of his baby. He's too emotionally tied. In our study, 65% of the business owners said they're deeply emotionally tied to the company, not just tied to the company, deeply emotionally tied to the company. And so they couldn't let go, which is pretty common. And he's like, I've been in this for 30 years. What's one more year? Well, one more year, which turned out to be 3% of his whole journey, cost him 40% value. Because he was burnt out and he lost a couple of big customers, then a couple of key people left. And all of a sudden, there was just like a little bit of a house of cards. And so, most people sell too late. Very, very few sell too soon and leave money on the table.
Those are so many good points right there of what it takes and where the business owner is at in relationship to the company that impacts not only the exit process, but just the growth and how its ability to scale. It hits it on all of those fronts. If you could give a piece of advice to a business owner who's maybe they're not looking to sell immediately, but maybe like 3 to 5 years out, what type of advice are you sharing with them in terms of what they should be doing or thinking about that would set themselves up for success as they kind of move into that next phase as they're getting closer to that transition?
Yeah, and we talked to a lot of people within that time frame. So it's the perfect time to sit down and talk with an investment bank is that 3 to 5 year window. So the first thing I would say is you have to know what your business is worth. What is that RMA? Like we do them here at Cornerstone for $5,000. It's about a quarter of what you're going to pay to get a certified valuation. It will update it for 3 years. So if you go, oh, Adam, I'm selling in 3 years. I don't want to get one now and have to pay again. It's like, no, you can get one now, understand what your value is, and then work on things, because two things are going to happen when you get that valuation, that RMA. Either A, you're going to, oh man, that's more than what I thought, or B, boy, that's a lot less than I thought, and I've got some work to do, because it's like once you get your RMA, then you sit down with your CPA, your tax attorney, and you guys as financial advisors go, okay, what am I going to net out of this thing? That's just easy numbers, $10 million. Well, you're not going to get $10 million at close typically. So what is that number after taxes, after fees, everything else that you're going to get? That's what you should really care about. What's your net number? Let's just say it's $6.5 million. Well, then who cares what that is until I sit down with you and Steve and go, okay, what does my ideal lifestyle look like? We call it the lifestyle number. What do you need to live your ideal lifestyle? And if that number is, let's just say $8 million, well, then you've got two choices. Either A, I'm burnt out, tired, sick. I lower my lifestyle down to 6.5. I know what that looks like going into it, and I accept it. Or I go, nope, I've got $1.5 million wealth gap here. I'm gonna work on the business and then come back around and get a valuation in 6 months or a year or whatever else it is. And in the RMA, we'll pick out the top 2 to 3 things that you could do to enhance the value the most and make it more saleable. And then either try to do it yourself, or we don't do the work, but we can partner it up with some coaches that we have that are really good all over the country. We work nationwide. So it's just because we're in Wisconsin doesn't mean we work. Wisconsin, only about 40% of our work is in Wisconsin. The rest is all over the country. So I would say know your 3 numbers. What's your real number, your RMA number, your net number, your lifestyle number. And then understand, and we have in the workbook that you talk about with the book, is what's important to you. Because, why people have seller remorse or regrets. Number one, they leave a bunch of money on the table doing an unsolicited offer and find out they left literally tens of millions of dollars on the table. That would hurt. Number 2 is they all think about value. Well, because nobody asks you, if you sell your business, what are they going to ask? What was your multiple? What did you sell it for? So everybody gets caught up in the numbers. But then you get caught up in that in the heat of the moment, and you go, oh shoot, I sold the highest offer, but now the culture sucks, or my employees hate working there, or they're not supporting the little league team that I used to always support, and just those little things like that. And it's like, oh man. So we have an assessment within our workbook that talks about what are the top 10. Here's the top 10 deal points, and sit down and reflect. What's most important to you? Is it the highest value? Is it the most cash at close? Is it getting out right away? Is it staying long-term? Is it rolling equity? Is it the legacy, the name staying? Is it, blah, 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 blah. There's 10 different things to choose from, but it just helps you understand what does a successful sale for you and your family look like? Because it's different for everybody. And the nice thing is there's no wrong answer. So understand your 3 numbers, understand what's important to you in a sale. Obviously, we talked about the value drivers, make your company saleable and strong. And then last but not least is, where are you going? It's unbelievable to me what I found doing this 28 years is that most business owners do not sell because of a business reason. It's not to your point where, I had this 5-year plan and then we executed it perfectly and now we're going to sell and maximize value. They wake up one day because of a personal reason, burnt out, tired, not fun anymore, want to do something different, whatever else it is. And now they want to sell. So they know they want to go away from the business, but they don't know what they're going to go to. And I was able to interview Bo Burlingham, who was the Inc. magazine editor for a bunch of years and in his home a few years ago. And we were talking about, regrets. And he said, the scariest question for a business owner that just sold their company is, Adam, what do you do now? Well, I used to be the owner of this and that. And now I don't do anything, and it's
the identity crisis. Yeah.
It's an identity crisis because they were the business and the business was them. And you have to separate those two. So in our workbook, we have a whole chapter just on what's next. And we have them write out what's on your bucket list. That helps to get you through the first year or two to kind of check off all the cool things you wanted to always do, but you either didn't have the time or you didn't have the money. Where, again, selling your business, working with you guys, diversifying your risk. Now you have to give them both time and money and let your money work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have them work on what's important. What do you want to be known for? Almost like writing their eulogy. I literally just came from a funeral 3 hours ago. And they talked about this woman and what do you want to be known for? Because some people get so tied up in the business, they don't know how to get out. They don't, 32% said, I don't know where to start or who to trust. But yet 47% said, I've lost sleep in the last 30 days because the business is such a big piece of my overall net worth that I don't know how to get out. I mean, so they're struggling with it. They're thinking about it, but it's like, what do you want to be remembered for? Because so many people go, well, I'm just going to stay in it. I don't know how to get out. And I'm going to die in the chair. I'm going out feet first out of this thing. And boy, I was a great business owner, but maybe not the best dad, grandpa, I didn't get back to the community, whatever it was. And other people are like, no, I want to be present for my kids. I want to be the best grandpa in the world. I'm going to have a cottage up on the lake that all the grandkids go to. And we have so many memories. And again, there's zero right or wrong, but you have to reflect on it because when your last day, people are going to say whatever they're going to say about you and what you want them to say. And that's where I think we can really help them kind of write the moral compass about what's important in life. And for some it'll be about business, for some it'll be family, some it'll be another cause that they believe in or their church or whatever else it is. So those are the things. Understand your numbers, follow the value drivers, know what's important to you in a sale, and then last but not least, know where you're going to. So you're excited going to something versus just trying to run away from something, but there's this big black hole, because we've seen that be just a nightmare. And one last story I'll leave with you on this of why I'm personally so committed to this and so passionate about it is my dad. My dad was not an entrepreneur. We grew up in a small little town, and if you have a riding lawn tractor, residential lawn tractor from John Deere, probably came from Horicon, Wisconsin. And so my dad was the master scheduler. He was in the office for 28 years, and he was 60 years old. 60, everybody retired at 62, at John Deere, and he was 60, and he came home one day from work, and my mom asked him how was work, and he said, "Great, I retired today." It's like, what? We have not even talked about retiring as a couple. What are you doing? You talked about retiring. He's like, no, I signed this. I signed my pension. I'm done. I'm never going to work again. Now, the story behind it is that my grandpa was not the nicest person in the world. Came back from the war and had lost a leg and just kind of grumpy all the time. But my dad was the youngest of five, and he had worked from basically 10 years old through, grade school, high school, college, put himself through everything, and just was a grinder and just grinded. And now he was 60. So he worked from 10 to 60, and he's like, I'm done. And what he saw was an opportunity, which is why you do the RMA earlier rather than later, because he saw an opportunity that his value was more than he thought, because they wanted to get the old guys out. So they were able to give him 2 years of his pension, which got him to 30 years, which he would have got if he worked another 2 years. He got a year severance, and they paid him out his vacation. So it was like he was giving up 7 months of pay for 2 years of his life to be able to be free. And he's like, I'm done. I'm out. Well, during that time, he got to travel. He got to go on cruises. He got with my mom. He got to come up and see us kids and the grandkids. He played golf with all of his buddies. He relaxed. He gardened. He loved to garden. He did all the things he wanted to do. And thank God he did, because at 62, when he should have retired, 10 days before my wedding, he was on the golf course on number 7, playing the best round of his golf of his life. And he had a massive stroke on the golf course. His buddies drove him to the ambulance, took him over to the Beaver Dam, took a scan, flight for life him down to Madison, Wisconsin, and he was never the same again. Now, he lived through it, but he couldn't. It took him a year to learn how to walk. And this guy who was just a genius with numbers, who would do everybody's taxes in Horicon just because it was fun for him, which, everybody else would be like, oh my gosh, no. He couldn't balance his checkbook anymore. You've asked him to draw, if you put a circle and say, show me 2 o'clock on a clock, he couldn't do it. So his mind was never the same. And then his body had the effects of having a stroke when it's on the left or right side of the brain. So he lived for another 5 years, kind of miserable. Like, look, I can't do all the things I want to do, frustrated, and then died of cancer 5 years later. So if my dad would have waited until retirement, waited until he was burnt out, he would have worked from 10 to 62 to have a stroke and then die 5 years of cancer. Like, that's not how to live. He only got 2 years. He died still way too young. But think about that. If we can help business owners understand that, you can get out sooner than you want, either the value's worth more, or you guys can save them in taxes, or look at how we can get your money working for you. And now they can have the gift of both time and money. When we ask people, why would you want to sell your business in the study? They said, oh, when I know I have financial independence, that I can do what I want to do, I'm out, because that's what I got into business for in the first place. But so people get tied up in the rat race and they just don't think about that. So yeah, for what you guys are doing, how great of plans you guys have and all the different tools you have to help them diversify their assets and mitigate the risk and have their money work for them. It's such a blessing to have that, because otherwise they just keep churning away, making money. But what's life about if you're not making memories and impacting the people that you love? And that's why we get so excited, is that our mission statement is to create positive, life-changing events for all the lives that we touch. And because we know if we can get those multiple offers and we work as a team, that business owner is going to leave better than they came in the door. And that's why we get excited every day to go to work.
I don't know if you find this in the conversations that you have with business owners, but oftentimes when people hear the term exit planning or think about the transition, it's always I'll think about it when I get to that point, when I decide that, okay, now it's time for me to sell, and then I'll start that process. But every time we've seen business owners understand that, as we say in the exit planning institute community, the idea that the exit planning is good business planning.
Right, right.
Anytime someone takes that seriously and goes all in with understanding their business, the finances, and their personal life, and that three-legged stool that we talk about so often, it's incredible how much of an impact that makes, regardless of when or what type of transition they end up exiting the business through. It's the quality of life that they're able to enjoy, and the ways in which they're able to live out their values, both in the business and outside of it, is just remarkable. And I can't say highly enough how important it is to start those conversations early.
Yeah, because if I ask all you listeners out there that are business owners, if I ask right now, when do you plan on selling your business? Write down a number. My mental capacity here is going to say, you're going to say 5 years, because everybody kind of says 5 years. And then if Adam asks you 2 years later, guess what you're going to say if you haven't done any planning?
5 years.
Still 5 years, because it's close enough that you get excited, your spouse gets excited, but it's further away that I don't really have to do anything yet. And your point, Adam, it's so important that you could be 20 years away, but why wouldn't you at least want to know, like in my book, what are the pros and cons of all your exit options? Because most of our clients think, I'm going to give it to my kids, or I'm going to sell it to my competitor. Well, those might be the two worst options out of the 9 or 10, or, when you start mixing them together, there's 50 different options. And they know one or two. In our study, like less than 44% knew even adequately all the different options. So it's like, I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what my options are. I've never done this before. It's my biggest asset. I'm emotionally tied to this thing, but yet I'm going to figure this out on my own someday, but I don't even know who to talk or who to trust.
Absolutely.
And that's where just starting the conversation with folks like yourself, you can be years away, but it's just understanding, what are your options? What's the value of my company now? What can I do to enhance the value? All those different things. What do I need to live my ideal lifestyle? Most people think it's 5, 10, 15, 20. I never heard anybody come back to me and say it's $8.23 million. It's always just a round number. It sounds good. I'll throw $10 million out there. I think I can live up to 10. And until they sit down with all the cool tools that you guys have of how to minimize taxes and have the money work for you, you don't know. And it doesn't take long. I mean, within a 3 to 4 week period, as a business owner, you could go from knowing nothing to having so many good answers that allow yourself to make a better informed decision. And that's all it is. All the talks that you have, that we have, they're all confidential. No one's going to find out. It's just a matter. That's why I wanted to come on your podcast, because we're both passionate about educating business owners. And, that's why we're here.
That's awesome. So your book, Finish Strong, is one that we've given away I don't know how many times. We just had a business owner roundtable that we've started doing on a quarterly basis here this year, and we gave one to every business owner in attendance. It's such a great book, easy to read, understand a lot of the discussions that we've been talking about here, going into detail about that. What led you to write that book, and what do you hope that business owners get from it?
Yeah, what led me to write the book is, again, we can only, educate so many people in so many different ways, and I'm trying to get one to many as best I can. And so I've been writing articles for over 20 years, 1 or 2 a month for different publications around the country. And I just said, what if I took all those articles and concepts and put it into a book? And it's not, hey, here's how to build value and sell your business tomorrow and sell with me. There's plenty of books out there like that. This is a holistic book of, when do you want to get out? What are all your different, what's important to you? What are all your options? What are you going to do after the sale? It really looks at all the reasons I've seen people either screw stuff up, or why they had regret after they sold, or anything else. And what we're putting a 2.0 together this year, probably ready out next year. But the big thing is not just the book, it's the workbook that they have of them doing those small exercises, or answering those reflective questions, because that's where the magic really happens, if they are actually start taking some steps to kind of start thinking through some of these things. And that's what I wanted to do, is just have business owners be better prepared and move that closing ratio up, because 20 to 30% is completely unacceptable. And we want to get that up to where 80, 90% of businesses are selling versus the 20 or 30% that are now.
Yeah, we agree. And so for those of you listening, before we do our final thoughts and wrap this up here, wanted to let you know, we do have a limited supply of his books in our office. For those of you that are listening to the podcast, watching it on YouTube, whatever the case may be, reach out to our office or go to scaletosell.com/discovery and let us know that you listened to the episode and that you would like a copy of Scott Bushkie's book, Finish Strong, Sell Your Business on Your Terms. And we'd love to be able to get that over to you. So to help you start that conversation, to learn about this even more and be able to design a plan for your life instead of just kind of drift into one, for sure. So with that being said, Scott, any last words before we wrap up this episode? It's been such a great conversation so far.
No, Adam, I really appreciate your time and what you guys are doing for business owners. And like I said, owners, please start the conversation, get that RMA done, get the real market analysis done, understand what your company's worth in today's value, because now you can start making real decisions and ones that will hopefully help you and your family get to where you want to be sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Again, if you would like a copy of Scott Bushkie's book, while supplies last, terms and conditions apply, all the details. Just go to scaletosell.com/discovery. Let us know you'd like a copy of the book, and we'd love to get one over to you. Scott, it's been an incredible conversation. We're so glad to have your expertise here on the Scale to Sell podcast. Look forward to having you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone, keep scaling.